Welcome to Anchor Pilot. Today, US warships and fighter jets conducted strikes against the Houthis to safeguard the Red Sea as tensions in the Middle East continue to impact the world. The strikes have been significant, damaging important objectives for the Houthis and diminishing their offensive capabilities. This has been described as self-defense, not retaliation. US warships and fighter jets struck Houthi ports and blew out Houthi anti-ship missile launchers. Let us now take stock of the tensions in the Middle East and shed light on the skirmishes and reactions between the US and pro-Iranian force. Tensions culminated over the weekend when the
US started a huge bombardment of parts of Iraq and Syria bordering Iran, and the US, UK, and coalition forces in the Red Sea launched a third round of coordinated strikes in response to Houthi attacks in Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. United States carried out 85 targeted strikes and launched more than 125 missiles against the headquarters and arsenals of pro-Iranian armed groups, many supply lines, and IRGC headquarters. The U.S. Air Force used B-1 Lancer bombers in the immediate aftermath of these strikes. 36 targets were destroyed at 13 locations in Yemen, including numerous Houthi underground storage facilities, missile systems, drone storage, and operation sites, while the White House National Security Advisor refused to rule on Sunday. Iran has been on high alert since these strikes and has conveyed many warnings to the U.S. and its allies. Yesterday morning, Iran issued a warning about potentially striking 2 cargo ships in the Middle East that have long been suspected of operating as bases of dispatch operations for Iranian commandos. Immediately thereafter, the Yemeni Houthis continued their attacks on U.S. warships and cargo ships. This prompted the U.S. Navy in the Red Sea to unleash a new wave of air attacks against the Houthis. In addition to the strikes over the weekend, U.S. warships and fighter fighters today executed a dawn strike on a Houthi anti-ship missile ready to launch against ships in the Red Sea. According to a statement from U.S. Central Command forces also launched cruise missile strikes against ground targets at dawn today in self-defense against the Houthis. Beginning in the morning, U.S. forces shot down 4 anti-ship cruise missiles, all of which were preparing to be launched against ships in the Red Sea. The explosions at the Houthi port were localized, but targeted the Houthis. Lost 17 anti-IP missile launchers at the port of Houthi. U.S. forces identified the missiles and Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen and decided that they represented an urgent threat to U.S. Navy ships and commercial vessels in the area. U.S. naval forces then successfully struck Houthi ground targets with tomahawks. CENTCOM provided footage of launches from the USS Gravely, USS Carney, and USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, supporting strikes against Iranian-backed Houthi targets. The video clearly shows how the Tomahawk missiles fired from the ships illuminated the darkness of the night and successfully hit Houthi targets. It is also obvious near the end of the film that our F-18 Hornets take off from the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. The fresh series of strikes followed U.S. air operations in Iraq and Syria targeting Iranian-linked military organizations. In response to the assassination of 3 U.S. soldiers in Jordan last week, the U.S. blamed the Iranian resistance in Iraq, a coalition of armed groups affiliated to Iran, for the Jordanian attack while denying any involvement in the strikes. CENTCOM stated that it launched proportionate strikes with backing from Australia, Bahrain, Canada, Denmark, the Netherlands, and New Zealand over the weekend in the U.S.-led coalition's 12th significant bombardment of the Houthis in Yemen. 36 targets were destroyed in 13 locations, including the Houthi arsenals. There are various underground storage facilities, missile systems, drone storage and operating sites, radars, and helicopters at Say Airport. The purpose of these strikes is to limit the Houthi capacity to continue their reckless and unlawful attacks on US and UK ships, as well as international commercial boats in the Red Sea, the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, and the Gulf of Aden. According to the statement, regional sources stated the strikes were aimed at discouraging Houthi attacks on US objectives in the region. Our understanding is that missile systems and launchers, air defense systems and radar, and weapons facilities were attacked. We know these strikes were carried out from ships and fighter jets. The US-UK statement did not mention the particular places attacked, but Houthi military spokesperson Yahya Sari said, the capital, Sana'a, and other rebel-held areas were targeted. Sari said 48 strikes were carried out on several locations, including 13 on Sana'a and its surroundings, 11 on Taiz, 9 on Oneida, 7 on Al-Bida, 7 on Hadja, and 1 on Sada. A video released online by residents in SAA shows the sound of explosions, with at least one explosion lighting up the night sky. These attacks will not go unpunished. They will be punished. Sari said in his speech, regional officials said some of the airstrikes were in mountainous areas that the Houthis said they had previously targeted. The Say Air Base was also among the targets over the weekend. Among the targets destroyed at the airbase were allegedly Soviet-era Mi-17 helicopters that the Houthis used to land civilian oil and transport ships. In addition to these helicopters, Houthi fighter jets were also known to be present at the Say Air Base. If you remember, there is a high probability that the U.S. airstrikes have damaged these planes in the last strike operation in the Port Ten Hoi. UAVs were destroyed in the current attacks. The 12th U.S. air campaign, an EHA launch pad was reportedly destroyed in the port of Hodin Hadja. A large number of Houthi military resources were also reportedly destroyed. In short, the 12th U.S. airstrikes have been a very costly loss for the Houthis. So we're talking about the US and UK stepping up airstrikes to limit the ability of the Houthis to damage us and UK naval forces and attack Israeli ships. And the Houthi say, it's pressure on Israel, an official said. Since mid-November, the IIEs have launched dozens of missile, drone, and boat attacks on US and UK military warships as well. In a statement today, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Nasser Kanani condemned the attacks on Yemen, saying they undermine international peace and security and contradict Washington and London's claims that they do not want a wider war in the region. The US and Britain continue to support Israel through their military actions across the region, spreading chaos, disorder, and insecurity. Kanani said Houthi spokesman Mohammed Abdul Salam warned that US and UK aggression, whether in Yemen, Iraq, or Syria, will pull them into a quagmire in the area and fuel the flames of enmity, escalating tensions in the area and establishing a new front. America and Britain should listen to the international community, asking for an immediate halt to Israeli aggression, easing the embargo of Gaza, and ending the protection of Gaza. Abdul Salam added, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said today that Washington plans to launch additional airstrikes against Iranian-backed groups in the Middle East to send a clear message that the United States will respond when our forces are attacked. Sullivan said humanitarian issues in Gaza will be a top priority for U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, who will visit Israel, Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the West Bank. This week, scores have been murdered in U.S. strikes in Iraq, which Washington says are simply the first step in its response to a Jordanian drone strike that killed hundreds of U.S. soldiers on Sunday. People attended a funeral in the Iraqi capital Baghdad for 17 members of Iran-linked Popular Mobilization Forces killed in the strikes. U.S. and allied troops in the region have been attacked more than 165 times since mid-October, mostly in Iraq and Syria. But the deaths in Jordan are the first deaths from enemy fire in this period. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said that the U.S. strikes against Iranian-backed groups were only the first round of strikes, and that more would follow. Iranian-linked armed groups in these countries say that U.S. interests are legitimate targets because of Washington's military and diplomatic support for Israel in Gaza, expected to be impeded by the new Western strikes because of fears of broader regional conflicts. Iran, Iraq, Syria, and others have strongly condemned the attacks, while Russia, which supports Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, has called for an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council, which is expected to take place in New York. What do you think about this issue? Please let us know in the comments. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to be informed about new videos. Thank you for watching us.